Joe Rogan? You like Joe Rogan, his
Yeah,
podcast?
I know he has a big podcast.
Yeah, I was on last week, talk about AI. And he said the world is going to change in a way that is like so significant. And that's what the Pope is saying too. Yeah. Hopefully it's not the end of the world.
Hello, everyone. I'm here with Dr. Colin Young, which is a PhD in sociology of sports, and myself, Ferdinand. I am electrical engineer, and we both will talk today about the tech in sports. Hi, Dr. Colin.
Thank you for having me, Ferdinand. It's a pleasure to join you at this very pivotal time in human history, the meeting of robots and humans, the clash of the titans. World domination is at hand. You giggle about the role of AI, but it's coming.
It's coming. Nice to having you here. All right, so today I thought we will crack down on the new trends on sports and also on technology and how technologies are really kicking off into sports. And I really would like to see also from your side the psychology side of it. So what does it bring to us from the perspective of the athletes, and also from the person who is watching the games? So what this will be do with the people which are involved in it?
Yeah, well, something that pops in my mind is Moneyball. Have you seen that movie or read the book by the economist? I think it was named Michael something, but it was a bestseller, and then a movie with Brad Pitt and Brad Pitt was the owner, Billy Beane of the Athletics.
Yeah.
How they became like a successful baseball team by kind of revolutionizing using statistics and analytics, and they realized what people were looking for before of like just having a man, an old school baseball guy just scout players that you just punch in numbers and then you can pick the best people. So for all sports, people are just going to be punching in numbers, and sports are going to get much more like analytic. And you can see it now, with professional sports of, all the technology involved of, trying to train these people perfectly. And then with AI, kids are going to start doing like perfect training, which will help their bodies, but it's going to make us very robotic, and I think what draws people to sports is the drama and the like David and Goliath of sport versus like, oh, we want 100, like perfect athletes to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw that movie and I also very impressed on how they changing the game only by analyzing the data which was there available, and that at a time when we didn't have maybe all the AI resource. Now I took here 4 categories of AI supported devices and technology which are making their ways into the playing field. The first one is the wearables and on-field technology. Then we have the AI coaching and training tools. Then we have the automation in sports. And then we have the parts of the game analysis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then our world is being dominated by money and capitalism, I feel, and it looks like you can see the trends, at least in America nowadays, like for like ESPN, which seems to be the biggest sport network. They put a lot of information about gambling, and they make like very easy for people to gamble on sports. So when there's lots of money involved, then there's going to be people trying to cheat. Because I think what's going to happen, maybe parents will have an AI thing and maybe even an implant to try to make like the perfect like NBA player, because there's so much incentive. I was into distance running for a number of years, and nobody knows who wins the different major marathons, unfortunately, but it's a huge industry because people and the race directors figured that out. People just want a good experience. They want to be the stars and like get fancy medals and have, fancy shirts and this and that. They don't care about sponsoring, to get the best athletes. They'd rather just have whoever wins, and they care about their experience.
Mhm.
So
But for one example, it's exactly on that direction which is going. One example is the next gen statistics from a tool which is created by Amazon, the AWS AI, which has now a partnership with NFL. Did you hear about that?
no, can you explain it?
Yeah. So this is actually the next generation of analytics for
Uh,
football, American football.
yeah,
And it's like this: they have all the cameras and sensors and the RFID sensors embedded even in the players and in
yeah,
the ball,
yeah,
etc.
like GoPro. Yeah,
Yeah, but it's
and
real
lasers.
data of the speed of the ball, how fast is one runner running to there, how long time he stayed here, etc. All this data is collected and thousands of data points. And then, for instance, they say what's the probability of a game happening or a certain player to receive the ball even before the game has happened.
Yeah, it has consequences for people gambling. Or like the coaches, their salaries on the line if they win or lose, and so it changes. You know, why baseball became popular in America?
No.
Okay, well, so it was during the Industrial Revolution when people moved from the farms into the city,
Hmm.
and so it was like an oasis of green where people like needed that, like a human desire to have some green, and you can have parks and stuff, but that's why people gravitated towards baseball because it was like a little bit of nature. And when well, so the Chicago Cubs are notorious for being kind of a losing team over the years. They had the longest time of not winning a World Series, 108 years between championships, and they finally got it in 2016. And they said it was the biggest human mass gathering ever. Like 7 million people came to like the celebration, so it was like a big deal. But for a long time, the Cubs didn't have to get the best players because they were making so much money just from people wanting to just enjoy the baseball field,
Hmm.
like the songs and the green, and you can see the beautiful skyline. And it's always, a lot of times beautiful blue sky, and it's close to the lake. And so, um, yeah. So what I like about sports, and I don't know what you like, is that nature of like, and that I love running, of like running in a mountain or, on a trail is like very human experience as opposed to a technological experience. Like I don't want to play video games. I'd much rather be out in nature.
Even though I think sometimes I'm too much on a computer because I work every day on a computer. I'm always inside, and that's like part of my job as an engineer. And for instance, they simulate millions of game scenarios in advance and then can already identify injury risks. So they know, okay, now we are in this
Yeah.
constellation, this person is there, this person is there, and the probability of an injury is 50% or 30%. And then maybe they even already stopped that.
Yeah, especially if it's like Messi has any sort of like the whole league and all the fans and the players do not want Messi to like miss games, right?
Mm, mm,
Because he sells so much and like people travel from all over just to watch him. So, um, yeah, sports in the NBA. I don't know if you know about this. They call it like player management, where they some of the stars, and they're making 50 $100 million a year, but then they'll sit out games because soreness, or even to let the team lose so they get a better like draft pick. You have to think about like the body, and where's the line between robot and human. Like you can get right now, what they discovered in baseball was you get this Tommy John surgery that makes you a better pitcher
mm,
than before. So like, are people going to get these restructuring of their body, and then, well, what's cheating? Do you put on like motorized legs? Like, can't you, especially with like Neuralink, you change the because a lot of running is the neurological being able to like fast twitch, is something that you have, or it's like a, in the neurons. So like if you can kind of play around with that with technology, we can have these superhumans. But then what extent will people go to? Will they go to like um like I said, like if you're a man and then you get a sex change to be a woman, like what modifications would you have to get to be able to participate? And that's something that like is a real world question where like in the US a lot of the or some um state meets and like net cross country or there's a famous college swimmer, and some people were mad that like the man that changed to a woman was winning, and then some people were happy and saying it's progress. So these are things that like our society has to wrestle with.
Yeah, at the end, for you to be able to win, there's only first transgender swimmer, because otherwise no chance, no
Yeah,
chance of winning if you're not trans.
yeah. Well, you're probably too young in the East Germany in the 1980s, or like the Soviet Union in the 80s, or China in the 90s, or like I mean, US probably throughout a lot of sports of like how incredible some of these are performances are,
Mm.
like there's still some of the track records that, like, for instance, I think the 400, maybe even the 800, like it's still from a woman from the Soviet Union or East Germany.
Mhm.
And you look at a picture and it's like, wow, that is a really muscular person. Uh, like not naturally muscular. It's like it sticks out as like, wow, I've never seen, somebody like that.
I don't know. At a certain point, I don't know if it's really then becomes being sports, or it's only the enhancement of the shoe together with the
Yeah.
strategic together with the training, which is already which is makes the difference, not the person by itself. No,
Yeah. Yeah.
I
What
remember
what
that.
is entertaining to watch. But actually what's interesting with, for instance, boxing, which you could say is like one of the most ancient kind of sport.
Mm.
Um, I don't know if you heard, like last year, I think the number one fight was this Jake Paul, I think that's his name, our YouTube guy, and then a old champion that was, I think, is it 58? Is that how old he was when he? But people thought that was great.
And he
The,
fought about against Mike Tyson, wasn't it?
yeah, so it's like people. It showed that people care more about like the story than like the the great, like the best athlete. So maybe sports will change to like people will want to watch, maybe we have categories of like enhanced humans, not enhanced humans, and like when I was in high school, I thought, okay, it would be the best to be a professional athlete. So if I had AI, it would tell me the best steps for me. It would look at all my factors and tell me, okay, what sport I should be in, how to train to not get hurt and to like win the state championship. And but everybody's going to be running these programs. So it's like one program versus another program. And of course, in our society, for the most part, it's been the rich are the ones that are always going to have the leg up. And so is it going to become a question of like, to make the NBA, you need $1 million. I think
Yeah.
that Armstrong, he was, very scientific and put in millions of dollars like to say, okay, what's the very best way for me to train and to race? And so they monitored, all these blood factors and like the perfect hormones and like had, sophisticated doctors. Um, so that's actually, and I stopped watching the Tour de France when, one year it was like four of the top five guys, I think it was 98, all got busted. It's like, okay, how can you even like that? I felt you feel a little bit like cheated when it's you realize um the person, says I did it through hard work, and then in fact it was just I mean, that's the thing about drugs is it actually allows you to do more hard work, and that's what they always say. But in fact, it is cheating because not everybody has access to those things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you think is now the next steps which will happen for the
Well, I
sport.
think what's going to happen is AI is going to just make life, it will seem better, but then it's in fact not going to be better. Human beings are hardwired after over millions of years of evolution to want like real sunlight or real intimacy between two humans. But AI is going to make it so much easier to be close to some entity, to feel like heard or like advised. And I think people are just going to be accustomed to it. And so you might be born with like an implant in your brain and you won't even know it. And you'll just think it's regular. And then you'll have the choice of like, okay, AI run a program for me to be a doctor, to be a lawyer or something. But there's going to have to be some way that we as the society can come together and say, how do we want to use this? Because if it's in the power of, somebody that abuses it, yeah, we could see a big shock. But hopefully, yeah, hopefully we have hope that humans will kind of be careful and keep our humanness over any sort of technological achievement.
Yeah, but I think it's slowly already going in that direction. Really, like you said, because one practical example is now you type in a search on Google, and the first search result is already the answer from the AI on top.
Yeah,
For example, if you're now asking where should I go for dinner, the AI will give you the answer. So you are already starting to follow what the AI is telling you. Very
yeah.
subtle way, because you don't scroll and take a decision by your by the search result, but you just read what the AI suggests you.
And actually it turns out amazing for like customizing, and same with like music, and just like with how Apple Music or the other apps use, of like they get a sense of what you like and then they just keep feeding but then hopefully we'll be able to control and be able to realize where is not beneficial for us, like it's not beneficial to be on social media all the time.
Yeah, but I
I
think
think
they are getting
that's
so sophisticated that it will be just impossible for us to resist. It will be just impossible to not follow the advice
yeah,
from the AI, because it's so customized, so
yeah.
made to you, that you will be kind of, it's almost forced to follow it. And even worse, I think in the work and sports also, you are forced to follow it, because otherwise you're out of the game. If you don't use AI at your work, so you're not able to compete on the
Yeah,
same level in sports. So you're kind of forced to follow what the AI predicts to tell you.
yeah, and
Uh,
unfortunately, in society, it's a trickle down effect of, you can see how professional sports are using computers and technology, and then before you know it, little kids at, the youth soccer game, which used to be about, okay, just play in the grass and make friends and have some leadership, is going to be about like,
mm,
okay, strategizing and, my kid can only play for 20 minutes and, he needs to do this drill and that drill and
mm,
yeah, it's going to be interesting.
yeah. All right then. Then I think we covered the topic for today. Thank you very much, Dr. Colin,
Yeah, it was my
for your
pleasure, Ferdinand. And yeah, let's be positive and make sure we are in control and really look at long term what we're doing.
Yeah, let's do that. So take care, and then talk to you in the next one.
Okay.